This video is not what it seems. Wait like 2 minutes before you eat me alive. Please, I beg you.
Guys, I'm so livid about this one D&D thing. I can't even stay still because I have so much to say about it. The more that comes out, the more I just genuinely hate it. Totally straight up, being honest, I hate it. I hate everything about it. I hate that they're trying to ruin D&D. I hate that they're trying to make me play a specific way. I hate that they're trying to give all these options to players instead of making them work within the bounds of what was there in order to actually have some sort of skill needed for the game. Okay, are they actually doing all of that? Or are they actually just trying to provide more options for people so that they can play the game how they want? No, they're trying to make me play the game how they want. They want me to play with this whole ridiculous system that gives way too much flexibility and doesn't actually allow you to put any amount of skill or actually need to know the rules. It's all just dumbed down. 5e was already too dumbed down in the first place. Okay, but it's not really preventing you from using the rules previously, is it? I mean, there are different editions which you can still play. Yeah, but I don't want to play those other editions. I want them to continue to work on the edition that was already working for me. 5e was great. I enjoyed it. So why do they have to change it in order to appeal to an even babier crowd? Well, I don't think they're necessarily doing that. They're just providing more options. You don't actually necessarily need to have them. More options? You mean things like removing the ability scores from races so people can just play into their ridiculous fantasies, like pretending that a gnome could ever be as strong as a Goliath? Well, that's one way of looking at it, yes, but at the same time, you don't have to use those rules. I mean, honestly, the only thing that's preventing you from putting those ability scores where they originally were is you. You can choose to do that, right? I will not sit here and allow wokes of the coast to... I can't even get that last statement out, oh my God. Stop. Look at this right now. I'm guaranteeing you probably sit into one of three categories right now. One, you genuinely are just tired of hearing this argument, in which case you're pretty much just sitting in the same seat that I am. Or two, you are looking at the person who's outraged and just seeing them as absolutely ridiculous. And three, you're looking at the person who is outraged and seeing a lot of arguments that you've made, but understand that I'm being totally ridiculous in the way I'm presenting it. I'm making you seem like you're totally irrational, uncontrollable, no way to make sense to you. The reason for that is because I'm using a straw man argument. For those of you who don't know, a straw man argument is basically how you argue on the internet. You create this person that doesn't actually exist, an extreme of the things that you're against. In this case, it was somebody who hates 1D&D and just wants things to be the way that they want. Except I turned it up to 11. I made them totally ridiculous. There was no way to get through to them, which yes, there are some humans out there like that, but for the most part, people just don't act that way, as long as you actually give them some modicum of respect. On the other hand, you might have been somebody who has been tired of hearing the arguments coming from my very enraged counterpart there, at which point you probably saw them as exactly what I was portraying them. Somebody unconsolable, ridiculous, somebody who's not even worth paying attention to. Literally just an absolute noisy nothing that shouldn't ever have a voice to speak. And it's easy to see people that way, but the thing is straw man arguments are just, well, a logical fallacy. And unfortunately, in most of the discourse I'm seeing about 1D&D, there's just straw mans. Everybody's complaining about a certain type of person who really doesn't actually exist. Now don't get me wrong, I have seen all of the arguments that I just stated on the internet from people. But the thing that the straw man is avoiding is actually hearing out that person and what they're saying. There are some people who are that extreme, but those people are far and few between and just happen to be the loudest people on the internet, which means they shouldn't represent the majority of people. And yet we find a way of actually inflicting this persona, this straw man, on the other side because it's all that we're hearing right now. So let me make it clear, that character that I presented at the beginning of the video, even if you were looking at it and going, oh my God, yes, I've heard this person over and over, I'm tired of hearing them speak, they don't really actually exist. Maybe a few people actually believe in everything I just said and wholeheartedly believe it, but those people are far and few between. And they really don't represent the majority of people. We can straw man the other way. And I guarantee you that they actually hear it the same way. They also see things on the other end of the spectrum. We can make a straw man about somebody who believes in absolute freedom, the ability to do anything. The rules are absolute bullshit. We shouldn't even listen to them. We can do whatever we want. We should be able to make whatever we want. We should be able to kick the DM out of the seat if they do anything that even remotely makes us uncomfortable. Yes, people do sometimes quote those opinions on the internet, but in real life, in a real scenario, there are very few people who actually genuinely believe that. It's just the loudest people on the internet. Now, I know that probably this entire video seems a little bit clickbaity, but that was kind of the point. Because you saw somebody who's enraged about 1D&D and it made you pay attention. If I had tried to put something very simple out on the internet just about my general thoughts about 1D&D with a very simple smile, I mean, how much would that actually matter? I'd just be one voice out of a ton. but the loudest ones get the most attention, and that's the problem. I want to focus on making sure that we're communicating in ways that are actually genuinely helpful and important, but it causes us to have to actually think about the ways that we're currently considering the other side of the equation. Humans, as they evolved, developed pattern-seeking brains. Brains that are meant to seek out patterns in order to be able to predict what's going to happen next. It was very vital in our actual evolution of becoming a very effective species. However, the problem with that is it causes us to stereotype people, put them in boxes. And stereotypes, despite what you mainly think, are not actually that bad. They're just a way of you being able to categorize and make sense of the chaotic world around you. However, the problem is some people will take a harmful stereotype and they will assume that will be 100% correct. And that's where the problem is, and where a lot of people tend to go when they're considering this argument. When we're talking with the other side, no matter which side you're on, whether thinking 1D&D is terrible for allowing so much freedom, or whether you genuinely like the changes that 1D&D is making, the problem is if you do not consider the other side because you are assuming you've stereotyped them into being this insane strawman character, there's never going to be any improvement anywhere. And the community will become divided. Now let me make it clear, I'm honestly not providing any super new or incredible information right now. This is stuff a lot of people know, but when you're in the echo chamber of the internet, going through Twitter, Reddit, scrolling through YouTube comments, it becomes so difficult to see the larger picture because you're flooded with the loudest opinions. But I will restate, those opinions don't actually represent the majority. What they do is they represent the minority who feels passionate enough to make their voice heard. And that's not actually a bad thing. I want people to be excited for the TTRPG community. I want them to be passionate. I want them to spread their voice, but the problem is, in doing so, they're creating a very false narrative about what they actually care about. We all want a good game, but instead we tend to get focused in politics, and it becomes really ridiculous. My comments specifically really caused me a lot of stress just seeing how much people focus on politics instead of just caring about each other. I mean, honestly, it's amazing. I can talk to the most hateful commenters I've ever seen and the kindest commenters, and if I talk with them long enough, treat them with enough respect, and just hear them out, typically they will come down to the same conclusion. They just want to be able to play the game. They want people to feel comfortable at their table to play what they want without it being a problem. And that's really what it comes down to. Most people just want everybody to be able to be at their table, be comfortable, and it not be a problem with everybody just playing how they want to play. The issue is that there are some people out there who are genuinely hateful, genuinely a problem, that make a minority, and they are very loud. And it causes everybody to grow concerned about the other side. So the solution, honestly, is just to communicate. Just to understand that you're probably assuming a harmful stereotype of the other side. Talk to them, communicate, but then also don't be a pushover. If you genuinely find them to be an issue, don't let that stand. Take a stand, walk away from them. Don't allow them at your table. That is a hugely important portion of it. Tolerance is important, but tolerance does not mean letting yourself get walked all over. And let me make that clear. I have so many people in the comments who will say genuinely hateful things, and I will respond to them. I will tell them off and I will block them. And they act like I was wrong for doing so because I'm a nice, wholesome YouTuber. I shouldn't be allowed to do that. But I'm not a pushover. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with taking a step forward and making sure that they know it's not okay. Tolerance and acceptance is one thing, but if that tolerance and acceptance begins to let somebody else push back against that acceptance, that is where it becomes a problem. This honestly wasn't really a video about D&D, just about communicating with each other. Understanding that we can very quickly alienate ourselves from the other side if we don't communicate with them. The real enemy is the people who are genuinely hateful, the people who are genuinely pushing back against acceptance. Those are the real problem, but they can become defended and hidden and allowed to do what they do if we just treat a whole group as that type of person. And we don't want people to be able to do that. So please, make sure you communicate properly, talk to each other, and honestly, just treat each other nice. That's what this whole channel is about, and I hope all of you continue to do it. Go out into the world, make it your own.